Have you ever chased something so hard that you forgot why you started? Have you ever loved something until it hurt? Until every small failure felt personal? Until you looked at what once made you happy and saw nothing but exhaustion? That was Ethan, 26 years old, living in a tiny apartment in a city that never looked back at him. A freelance illustrator chasing a dream that the world didn't seem to care about. He thought talent was enough, that passion could carry him through. He would soon learn that sometimes passion burns you before it warms you. A year earlier, Ethan had walked out of a stable office job. His father's last words echoed in his head. "Art doesn't pay the bills, son. You'll see." He did see, but not in the way his father meant. At first, it was liberating. He woke up late, brewed cheap coffee, and spent his days drawing, sketching worlds that only existed in his head. He posted his art online with captions full of hope. Day 12 of chasing the dream. Someday, this will be my full-time life. But months passed. The likes slowed down. The commissions were small, inconsistent, and often unpaid. Clients disappeared without warning. One said, "I'll pay after I see the final version," and vanished forever. Another rewrote his contract to claim ownership of everything. Every day, Ethan woke up to a different kind of silence, the kind that made the air heavy. He tried to stay positive. He told himself every setback was temporary, that every artist went through this. But even hope gets tired when the fridge is empty. Sometimes he imagined the version of himself from a year ago, the one who smiled at the idea of freedom. That version would never have guessed what freedom really costs. One night, he scrolled through social media. Other artists, younger, flashier, were thriving. Thousands of followers, brand deals, collaborations. He whispered, "What's wrong with me?" But the truth wasn't that he lacked talent. He lacked luck, and maybe a little faith. He stopped drawing for fun. Every stroke became survival. Every line had a price tag. And when art turns into obligation, beauty fades. One evening, Ethan called his mother. He hadn't talked to her in weeks. He tried to sound cheerful, but mothers always know. "How's your work, dear?" "It's good, Mom, just busy." "Remember," she said gently, "why you started drawing. It's not about being seen, it's about seeing differently." He smiled, though his throat felt tight. After they hung up, her words echoed in the quiet room. Seeing differently. He looked at his old sketchbook, the one filled with doodles from when he was a teenager. They were messy, imperfect, but alive. Now, his digital work felt lifeless, efficient, commercial. He missed that boy who used to draw on napkins just because the world felt too beautiful to keep inside. 2 weeks later, his landlord knocked. "One more month, Ethan, then I need someone who can pay." He nodded silently. That night, Ethan sat on the floor surrounded by crumpled papers. Dozens of half-finished drawings, faces, rain, hope, scattered like fallen leaves. He whispered, "Maybe they were right. Maybe this dream was never mine to have." For the first time in years, he didn't pick up a pencil. The days blurred together. He took small freelance jobs just to survive. Logo designs, cheap banners, soulless ad art. His hand moved, but his heart didn't. Until one morning, his phone buzzed. A new email. The subject line read, "Your art touched us." It was from a small children's charity in another city. They had found one of his old illustrations, a boy holding a broken umbrella in the rain. They wrote, "Your drawing made our team cry. Would you help us design a storybook to raise funds for homeless kids?" There was no mention of money, no contract, just a heartfelt message. Ethan reread it 3 times. He didn't feel excitement. He felt something deeper. Purpose. That night, he opened a blank canvas, and for the first time in months, he drew without thinking about followers, algorithms, or rent. He drew because his heart told him to. The project lasted a month. Ethan poured everything into it: the loneliness, the failures, the hope his mother once reminded him of. He drew a story about a little boy who painted the sky after every storm. He worked until sunrise, fueled not by caffeine, but by meaning. When the book was done, he sent it off without expectations. A week later, the charity replied with photos. Children holding the printed storybook, smiling beneath real umbrellas, painted like his art. Ethan stared at those photos for a long time. Then, quietly, he cried. Not from sadness, but from something purer. He realized something that night. Success isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper that says, "You made someone feel less alone." Weeks passed. The charity shared his story online. It spread quietly, not viral, but meaningful. Messages began to appear in his inbox. "Your story reminded me why I started drawing again. I was going to quit art school, but not anymore. Thank you for showing that kindness still exists." Ethan smiled. He hadn't expected any of this. He just wanted to help. His social media grew, not with numbers, but with connection. People didn't come to admire him. They came to relate. They came to share their own scars. And for the first time in his career, Ethan felt part of something bigger than himself. He began teaching online, not tutorials, but honest talks about failure, self-doubt, and resilience. He told his viewers the truth. There's no shortcut. You'll doubt yourself 100 times. But the only real failure is forgetting why you started. His channel grew slowly but steadily. Brands began noticing him, this time on his terms. He no longer accepted every offer. He said no more often than yes, because now he knew what mattered. A year later, the same children's charity invited him to an event. They were showcasing art that had changed lives. They hung one of his sketches, The Boy and the Broken Umbrella, in the center of the gallery. Ethan stood quietly in the crowd, watching kids walk past, pointing, laughing, asking questions. No one knew who he was, and that was okay. He took out his phone, snapped a photo, and whispered, This is enough." For the first time, he wasn't chasing success. He was living it. Years later, someone asked him, was it worth it? Leaving a stable job for an uncertain dream? Ethan smiled. Every struggle drew a line. Every mistake added color. Every heartbreak shaped the picture. Together, they painted my life. He still lives in that same small apartment, still makes coffee every morning, still sketches late into the night. But the room feels different now, brighter, lighter. He no longer measures success by money or fame or followers, but by the quiet message from someone across the world saying, "Your story made me believe again." This is not a story about art. It's a story about hope, about standing again when the world doesn't notice, about finding light in the smallest places. Because sometimes your greatest masterpiece isn't what you create, it's who you become while creating it.